What's up developers, and welcome back to a new video where we will be installing Tailwind CSS in our current React project. Quick pause. Do you want to support the channel and want me to continue on creating content? You can support the channel on Patreon, where you get benefits such as a private Discord group where you can share your coding issues and other developers who will help you out. If you are interested to join, the link will be in the description down below. I don't want to waste a lot of time styling our elements when we output stuff to the browser. So I think that adding Tailwind to our current project is a pretty good solution. For the people here that haven't used Tailwind CSS before, let me do a quick introduction. Tailwind is a utility-first CSS framework, meaning that it has defined CSS classes and tools that you can use to start styling your website. I've also got a complete course on how you could use Tailwind, which I will recommend in this course. If you haven't followed it before, it's pretty simple and it's straightforward. In order to add Tailwind, we need to use the Node Package Manager again to pull in some dependencies. At the moment of recording, React does not support PostCSS 8 yet. Therefore, we need to customize our npm install command a little bit. Let's navigate to the code editor. Inside the CLI, we need to perform the npm install space capital D, which is telling npm that we want to pull Tailwind in as a dev dependency. Then we need to tell what we want to download, which is Tailwind CSS at npm add Tailwind CSS / post CSS 7 compat space. We're almost done. Now we need to say post CSS add *7, and we need to add one more thing before we can run this command. Tailwind CSS does not automatically add vendor prefixes to the CSS. Tailwind itself recommends you to install auto prefixer. So let's do that. Let's say space auto prefixer add *9. Let's hit enter. It's pulling it in right now. By default, the create React app that we have does not let us overwrite the post CSS configurations. Therefore, we need to install something which is called Craco, which actually stands for Create React App Configuration Override. So let's do that. Let's say npm install add Craco / Craco. Let's hit enter. It's pulling in Craco right now. But before we can use it, we need to make some changes to our script inside the package.json. So let's open it. Right here in this section. Instead of saying react-script start, we need to replace React scripts with Craco. Now the same thing can be done for the build, test and eject, and let's actually do that. Let's replace it. What this will do is basically replacing the React scripts, but it has been added inside the Craco command. So we're actually adding more stuff to our React scripts. Now let's save it, and let's actually scroll down as well to the dev dependencies right here. And right here, you can see that Tailwind has been pulled in as well, with a version number of 2.2.17. The next thing that we need to do is to create a Craco configuration file so we can add Tailwind CSS prefixer as a post CSS plugin. So we can do it manually. So inside our project, let's create a new file. Let's call it craco.config.js. And it's pretty straightforward if you have used React before. What we need to do right here. We basically need to say, well, module.exports is equal to a set of curly braces. Then we have a style. We have post CSS, and within post CSS we have plugins that we can use. Now the value here will be an array, so brackets. And inside the brackets we're going to require Tailwind CSS and auto prefixer. So let's say require, single quotes inside the parentheses, Tailwind CSS. And you can see that auto import already recognizes it. Let's do it one more time, so require, but now auto prefixer. The next step is injecting Tailwind's components, utilities and base styles to our application. Now at the moment, the source folder is a mess. We got a lot of files right here that we actually don't need. I also don't want to create a separate CSS file since it already added one by default for us. Let's open it. There's just a body styling and code styling. Let's remove it and let's add our Tailwind right here instead of creating a new file. Like I said, we're going to pull in Tailwind directives right here, which will be replaced with Tailwind code. And in order to do that, we need to say add Tailwind space base. And we need to close it off with a semicolon. On the line below, let's say Tailwind space components And lastly, we have add Tailwind space utilities. Now let's go back to our Craco file because we have an error right here and we need to add a comma. All right, save it. Save our index.css file. Now you might wonder where these files that we are adding inside our index.css are coming from. So let me show that to you. The add Tailwind will look inside the node modules folder where it will search for a file called base, components, and utilities. So let's open it. Right here, let's write down Tailwind. We have our add Tailwind folder right here, and if we open it, you will see right here that we have a utilities. Where is the base? The base is right here, and the components file. Now the base file will inject Tailwind's base styles. The components file will inject any component available, and the utilities file will inject all Tailwind utility classes. Now in order to make use of our Tailwind, we need to perform one more command inside the CLI. Let's do it. Let's say npm run build, because we need to build our assets again. Let's hit enter. All right, it's building right now. It's giving us warnings, which is all right, as long as it's not an error. What we need to do then is to run npm run start. Hit enter, and it's starting my React app and Craco. Well, it's actually saying us that the port is already in use, so what I can do is to go to my local host inside the terminal, press Ctrl-C to quit the npm, back to node. Let's say no, and let's hit the arrow up and run npm run start again. And something has changed right here. What this will do is not creating a new file of 5 MB with Tailwind classes for us, but it will find it based on the directives we added inside the index.css file. Is it time to test it out? Since we're going to use Tailwind inside a .js file, we got to make sure that we import the right CSS file at the top of the correct page. In my opinion, adding it inside the app.js file, let me actually close off the node modules folder. All right. In my personal opinion, adding it inside the app.js file is the right place to import it. So let's open it at the top. Let's say import, single quotes. We need to go back an entire directory, so // index.css. What we can do is to navigate to our car.js. Right here, we could say, well, give it a class of text-center, and let's also align it in the middle. So let's say mx-auto. Save it, navigate to the browser, refresh it, and as you can see, the text has been changed. So our Tailwind classes do work. Now we could also say, well, bg-red-500. Save it, navigate to Brave, and the background has been changed to red. Alright, let's style it up a little bit. Let's remove the text center and the background color as well. Let's start off by adding a class to our image. So let's say class is equal to rounded-XL, and the shadow is XL as well. Save it, let's navigate back. Alright, the corners have been changed right here. Then for our H1, let's make the text a little bit bigger. So let's say class, text is 4XL. I want the text to be bold, which can be done by saying font-bold. And I want the text to be gray. So let's say text-gray-700. Save it and navigate back. And this looks a lot better. Now the next step is to add a little bit more space. So what we can do is to say PT, so padding top, -4. Now for our paragraph that we have right here, we could basically say, well, give it a class of text-s for small. The text-gray is 800 and the PT is 4 as well. Save it, navigate back, and this looks a little bit better. Let's actually make the text 600. All right. In the next episode, we're going to create dynamic data inside our car list. Therefore, we need to make sure that we give our div inside a car list a grid layout. So let's navigate back to Visual Studio Code and go to the carlist.js. What we can do is copy our car component, create a div right here, paste it inside the div, and let's give our main div a class of grid. It will be sm grid-cols-3, and the gap will be 6. Save it, navigate back, inspect the page. Let me actually make this a little bit bigger, an iPad Pro. And And where is it? All right, right here. We've added 3 grid columns next to each other, which is pretty dope. Now, you might wonder how we are using Tailwind right here, but it hasn't been added in the import. What this will do is actually sending back what we're returning to our app.js where we're calling the car list, and it will grab the Tailwind right here. And that's why I recommend importing your Tailwind right inside the app.js file. This was it for this video. Like I said before, the next video will be based on making our cars data driven. If you do like my content and you want to see more, leave this video a thumbs up. And if you're new to this channel, please hit that subscribe button.